Hello, good evening and welcome to Newsnight. This bulletin is live on Joy 99.7 FM in Accra, Love 99.5 FM in Kumasi, and on over 30 affiliates across the country. Coming up tonight, tomato traders map red zones in Burkina Faso as they await final confirmation to head back. Barely 2 weeks after 8 Ghanaians were killed in a terrorist attack, as tomato shortages hit markets and eateries consider possible price increases.
We warned our drivers, our traders. A lot of towns and villages in the northern part of Burkina Faso are marked red. When I say first portion is marked red, meaning there is danger over there.
We have details from the 37 military hospital where some of the injured tomato traders are receiving treatment, with several still requiring surgery.
Only God knows what would have happened to them if government was unable to bring them here on time. And so we thank you. We hope that you continue to take care of them very well so that they recover fully and go about their businesses.
Also ahead, Electricity Company of Ghana attributes widespread power outages to transformer failures, citing substation failures and upgrades in parts of Kumasi and Accra.
We experienced some cable blasts in the Ashanti region, which affected about 60 to 70% of our customers. I'm sure within some few moments, power should be back online.
Meanwhile, the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission has disputed ECG's claims, stating that transformer failures are not the primary cause of outages. We'll hear from them shortly.
Also coming up tonight, Minority accuses the acting Deputy Chief Executive Officer in charge of Finance and Administration at the Ghana Cocoboard of allegedly diverting funds for his company, Commodities, at the expense of the produce buying company.
You cannot benefit from the same system that you yourself is supervising. You cannot create a system whereby you will deprive the state from operating so that the state can also pay its workers.
Details as he calls for a full-scale investigation into the issue, further alleging that Commodities is currently using warehouses belonging to PBC for its operations.
In business,
government highlights significant turnaround of the economy after a year taking over, with majority of key indicators dropping to record levels.
In sports,
Kotoko reclaim top 4 spot as Prince Owusu targets GPL title push.
we've got the latest of these and many other stories coming up in the next 60 minutes. Join us and be a part of this show by sending us a WhatsApp on 055 11 11 997. My name is Kenneth. Jesse.
My name is Pelo Furi.
Details shortly.
Tonight, tomato traders are exercising caution, mapping out high-risk areas in Burkina Faso as they await clearance to resume their trips. This comes after a terrorist attack 2 weeks ago claimed the lives of 8 Ghanaians, disrupting tomato supplies and potentially driving up prices in Ghana. Traders have been advised to avoid an identified security hotspot, with leader of the Tomato Association, Eric Nanatifo, stating that members are suspending travel to volatile areas until further notice.
We warned our drivers, our traders. A lot of towns and villages in the northern part of Burkina Faso are marked red. When I say third portion is marked red, meaning there is danger over there. So we will be giving them all the list of the names of the various towns that they shouldn't be able to enter into that point. So this is a sign of warning that is given to them. So we are here to listen to the rest of the Baratra talks that they had, then our foreign minister and then Burkina counterpart have.
So that is the leader of the Tomato Traders Association, Eric Nanatifo. Meanwhile, at 37 military hospitals, some of the injured tomato traders are receiving treatment. Trade Minister Elizabeth Ofosu-Ajari says they will all or are all responding to treatment.
We are excited at what we have seen. In the list, the patients have told us how they have been taken care of. Today, I'm here with my colleague Minister for Transport and then my deputy. I'm also happy and privileged to be here by the leadership of GPRTU, the leadership of Tomato Sellers Association, and some of the survivors. We are here to visit the people who got injured during the Burkina Faso accident. We've wished them well. We pray that they recover fully under your care. It's unfortunate, and we condemn this in no uncertain terms. I don't know how buying and selling of tomato can end somebody's life. Peaceful people going about their business. But we hope that we are able to do tomato all year round so that this will not happen. We pray for peace in that space also, because peaceful people going about their business will end in a hospital with this kind of injury. We are lucky to have this kind of care here at 37 Military Hospital. Only God knows what would have happened to them if government was unable to bring them here on time. And so we thank you. We hope that you continue to take care of them very well so that they recover fully and go about their businesses. Nothing more, because at the bedside, the doctors explained to us how they are doing well and how they are stable and how there is no cause for alarm. And that's always the thing I want to hear. If the doctor says you are fine indeed. If they tell you are not even fine, you'll be fine, because your doctor says you are fine. And if you see their faces and how they...
Well, the uncertainty around the tomato trade is already impacting sales. Let's take you to the Malamata and Agbebloshi markets in Accra, where my colleague Hannah Odame reports a surge in the price of the commodity.
The high cost of tomato on the market has led to lengthier negotiations between sellers and traders. The traders have this explanation.
Tomatoes so there
is abundance of tomatoes in Burkina Faso, but the traders are scared to go there now due to the killing incident. We therefore plead with the president to resolve this issue immediately, as this will help reduce the current tomato prices.
They also plead with the consumers to understand their plight.
She is pleading with consumers to understand them when they mention the prices.
Consumers like Joseph Ansah, who was touched by the explanation of the traders, bought the tomatoes without much plea.
It's very difficult because when you see the quantum that they gave it to me as a 50 cedis, it's very hard. But how am I going to do? It's the situation, so I have to manage it like that.
But Auntie Lizzie unfortunately wasn't successful with her negotiation and had to leave without taking off tomatoes on her market list.
Was it 35? They said I'm 25 or some 25.
Asked for a reduction from 35 cedis to at least 25 cedis, but she refused, and I can't buy it because it's too expensive, so I'm leaving without the tomatoes.
Some sellers who cannot afford the new price hike have opted out of the tomato business for now, hoping to return to it when the situation normalizes.
I have been selling tomatoes since I was young, but I have stopped now due to the current price hike. When the situation normalizes, I'll go back to the tomato trading business.
For those who still want to travel to purchase tomatoes beyond the shores of the country, they ask for protection.
He's suggesting that some police officers are allowed to travel with them when they are going outside the country to purchase the tomatoes.
For Joy News, I am Hannah Odame.
My colleague Gemma Apia earlier visited an eatery here in Cocoboard in Accra and reports that food vendors are also feeling the impact.
Auntie Jane is a popular food joint here at Cocoboard, and tomato is one of the major ingredients that she uses in preparing her dishes. So from stew to soup and all the other meals here, she uses tomatoes. So following the concerns that there's shortage of tomatoes on the markets because of the attack in Burkina Faso, I'm here to have a conversation with Auntie Jane to find out from her whether she's experiencing that when she goes to the market and how that is affecting the prices of her food.
There are no tomatoes on the market. You suffer a lot before you can get some on the market. If you are not a regular customer of a tomato seller, she will not give you some. You have to be her customer before she can consider and give you.
In first, tomatoes, how much do you buy it for?
First,
I used to buy 200 cedis worth of tomatoes, and it could last me for 2 days. But I bought 300 cedis yesterday, and that was very little that I used on Monday. I didn't even add tin tomatoes. I haven't increased the prices of my food. I don't want to lose my customers. We knew that this would happen, but we have to keep our customers, so if we need to adjust certain things, we will do.
Well, the data on Ghana's tomato imports is not encouraging at all, as nearly 100% of fresh tomato imports used to meet domestic demand are sourced from Burkina Faso. Now in the studio with me is Caleb Ziblim of Joy News Research. So Caleb, let's start with a breakdown of Ghana's tomato sector.
Yes, Pearl. So we know that Ghana does not meet its entire tomato production that's meant for local consumption. So Ghana produces only 38% of the tomatoes we need for the national consumption. And in 2024, Ghana's local demand or national demand was 1.3 million metric tons. Our production was 500,000 metric tons. So there's a shortfall of about 700 or almost 800,000 metric tons, and that's about 62% give or take. So Ghana produces just 38% of the tomatoes we need.
38% you say. So what makes Burkina Faso such a major player?
So Burkina Faso is the closest neighbor where we can source tomato from. If you look at the data, Ghana sources its tomatoes mainly from Burkina Faso and some European countries like the Netherlands. But then almost 90% of tomatoes are sourced from Burkina Faso. That's our neighbors up north. And if you look at the data in 2024, Ghana imported $22 million worth of fresh tomatoes, and almost 99% of that was from Burkina Faso. So Burkina Faso is a major player when it comes to Ghana's tomato supply.
Thank you so much, Caleb Ziblim of Joy News Research. Now, on how soon consumers can expect prices of the commodity to stabilize following the sharp surge recorded in recent days, the leader of the Tomato Traders Association, Eric Nanatufo, whose voice we heard earlier before Caleb, had this response.
And supply normally determine the price of a commodity. So when the demand is high, automatically the price will go up. So this will take a gradual process. It will come down automatically, it will come down. But right now, I cannot assure you that today or tomorrow, prices of tomato will be this or this. But automatically, we are working on it so that the prices of tomato will be stabilized.
Let's go into the telephone lines right now and speak to the communications officer of GUTA, Jeff Kwame Jesse. Grateful for your time on the show this evening, Mr. Jesse. Now, the tomato sellers are in a dilemma whether to risk it all and go to Burkina Faso and get more tomatoes, or whether to ration the ones they have in Ghana like they are doing right now. What will be GUTA's advice? Hello, Jeff. Unfortunately, we do not have Jeff on the line. We're still trying to get him back on the line to have a conversation with us. We're trying to find out what the tomato traders should be doing as of now. And as we speak, we've been taking you around the country. The situation is not any different in the Ashanti region, for instance, where my colleague Irabna Akwe reported to us in the afternoon that some eateries have started increasing their prices because the tomatoes are now being sold to them at exorbitant prices. We're still trying to get Jeff on the line. Do we have Jeff now?
And if you're listening to Newsnight, you can join us with your comments via our WhatsApp line 055-111-1997, 055-111-1997.
Let's go to the Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG, which is attributing recent widespread power outages to transformer failures, citing substation failures and upgrades in parts of Accra and Greater Kumasi. Well, this follows planned and emergency maintenance works across regions, causing temporary outages. ECG's General Manager of External Communications, Charles Ni Ayiku, has been providing some details.
We have taken some actions as we are aware of the current increase in outages within some of our operational areas. We experienced some cable blasts in the Ashanti region, which affected about 60 to 70% of our customers in that region. And as I speak to you, I'm sure within some few moments they should be the power should be back online as engineers are working to make sure that power is restored. We've also done some transformer injection so as to manage the current capacity at these areas where there are transformer issues. So we've deployed third-party contractors to help in this regard. Yes, so we are making sure that everything will be sorted out and our customers would have power so that they can go about their normal duties.
Well, however, the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission, PURC, has disputed ECG's claims, stating that transformer failures are not the primary cause of outages. PURC's analysis shows most outages are due to load management operations and faults unrelated to transformers.
We know that once in a while there are one or two maintenances that goes on across by the utilities and they're taken by the utilities. Maybe upgrade of some few transformers and also some works, annual works that the utilities are required to undertake. So what we are seeing currently is actually upgrades of few transformers, the utilities trying as much as possible to replace some obsolete equipment and also improve their equipment so that they can deliver better services to the consumer. So that's what we are seeing. And there's nothing unusual and untoward. And over the last year, the utilities also received considerable investments through the MITO, that's the multi-year tariff order. And then they've gotten access to some funding to also buy some few equipment. And they're trying as much as possible to improve or to deliver improved services to consumers. So it's just a temporary maintenance schedule period for some of the utilities. And that's what is costing some of the outages here and there. But within the shortest possible time, I mean, things will get back to normal and the consumer would be guaranteed uninterrupted power supply from the utilities.
My colleague Michael Ashale joins me in the studio with details of the ECG statement. Michael, what more can you tell us from what's contained in there?
Well, we know that the ECG informed their customers and the general public in some areas that the outage being experienced is as a result of an underground cable fault at the Rage Bulk Supply Point in Kumasi near Georgia Hotel. What they tell us that these are some of the places that were affected. And if you have been living in this place and possibly you have seen some of these, Kronum, Afrancho, Busia Kroa, Breman, Adonko Company, Affordable Housing, Moshizongo, Airport Runabout, areas like Dr. Mensah, Ashtown, Town Hall, Roman Hill, Bompata, and some other areas in that ECG went ahead also to assure affected customers that their engineers are working to rectify the fault and restore supply.
Well, thank you very much, Michael. The situation which began recently has left power consumers searching for answers as some businesses have already started feeling the impact. Parts of Achimota, Tantra Hills and Mile 7 have been heavily affected by this worrying development. My colleague Fatal Bayaga spent some time in the area over the weekend and filed this report.
Rahina Tatahiri manages a washing bay in the central part of Tantra Hills in Accra. The business had been running smoothly until recently. Her business has now been plunged into difficulty due to frequent power fluctuations.
3 days,
3 days ago, the power went off here. And whenever that happens, we are unable to work. The workers also need money to buy food. The electricity keeps flickering.
For many residents, the power situation is unusual as the area has over the years enjoyed relatively stable electricity supply. Areas including Mile 7, Achimota, Central Hills and surrounding communities are all affected. When I realized the power was flickering, I decided to switch off my fridge and TV set, but the items in the fridge had already spoiled.
When we come to the house, we store a lot of goods in the fridge and all that, so for 3 days now, our meat and then chicken got spoiled and all that, and it really costs us.
We use lights to do everything, and when the power goes off, no one comes here again, and it has slowed down our business.
They are therefore calling for urgent intervention to help keep their businesses afloat.
I want them to work on it for us. They should work on it for us because it is affecting our business.
I want them to do something quick about it because we depend on this, and if they slow down, we have nowhere, and we the employee, we have nowhere to go.
For small business owners like Rahinatu and Prince, stable power is not just a convenience, but the lifeline for their livelihoods. As they wait for a solution, many hope the challenges will be addressed quickly before the impact on businesses becomes even more severe. For Joy News, Fatama Bayaga, Tantra Hills, Accra.
Well, in the Ashanti regional capital, Kumasi, residents and business operators say they're experiencing persistent power outages that have disrupted daily life and economic activities for several weeks. Local businesses describe the impact as severe, noting that the cut in supply of power is hindering productivity. The power consumers are appealing for swift action to restore reliable power supply and prevent further disruptions.
I also charge phones for my customers, and I take a little amount from the charging. Now the light is off.
I don't know, they should give us a timetable, whether we are back to do so or what, because every day, not once, not twice.
Well, you had some residents in Kumasi that have been joined via telephone. We have Richmond Roxon is a spokesperson and head of communications at the Energy Ministry. Good evening and thank you for your time here on Newsnight. You've already explained to us what the issue is, but let me ask you, are we in a power crisis?
Good evening to you and good evening to your cherished listeners. No, we don't have any power crisis. What it is that at this point, our generation capacity is intact. We have adequate, or let me say sufficient power supply when it comes to our generation. And so we expect everyone to have consistent power in their homes or offices. In the last couple of days, the ministry has noted concerns from public, from specific areas. And these outages as a result of various reasons. And so if you take an area like Tesano, there was a challenge with the 11 kV feeder, and that affected Tesano, Akwiteman, Boti Warehouse, and surrounding areas. That issue was resolved yesterday. And so if you speak to residents there, I'm sure that power supply would have improved tremendously. If you go to an area like Dodowa, there was a challenge with the underground cable. The technical team had to trace it. They detected it, and then that has been fixed. That happened Friday night, and at the time it happened, they had to move part of the load to Adenta. And so we had some parts of Dodowa, Amahia, and surrounding areas not having power supply. That was resolved yesterday. And so from yesterday around 7:50 p.m. till date, Dodowa and its environs have had stable supply of power. If you go to Achimota, for Achimota, we also had a challenge with the substation, had to do with a transformer to be specific. That challenge was resolved today. And so areas like Tantra Hill, Mile 7, Achimota should have stable power supply as has been before this issue. For Adenta, we have an issue with transformer overload. You say transformer overload, basically the areas have developed so fast and demand for electricity have gone up. And so we have to upgrade the transformer by bringing in one with bigger capacity. We've scheduled to complete that work by Friday. And so as a ministry, we are monitoring the works of ECG to ensure that that is done. Those are the pockets of areas that have complained with electricity supply. But generally, if we speak to people, I'm sure that they will attest that some areas do not experience these. You speak to residents of East Legon, Spintex, you go to Dansoman, you go to parts of Oyarifa, you go to those areas. They will not complain that there's a challenge in Accra. And so it's not as if the ministry hasn't taken notice. We've been monitoring, we've been working closely with the technical teams, and these issues are being resolved.
Richmond, Kenneth here. The ECG on one hand is attributing this widespread power outages to transformer failures. Meanwhile, PURC is disputing that, saying that transformer failures are not the primary cause of these outages. Who should we believe?
I'm not sure that ECG and PURC they're saying two different things. What Shafiq said, Dr. Shafiq said, was that will not be the only challenge. As I mentioned, if you heard me earlier, we've had challenges with certain areas when it comes to transformers. As we speak now, part of Sapperman has a problem with transformer that will be changed first thing tomorrow morning. And so, yes, you will require investment, like Shafiq said, to be able to deal with these challenges. Even if you are purchasing transformers, or you are purchasing conductors, or you are upgrading cables, that still has to do with investment. And so both are not mutually exclusive. They complement each other.
And Roxanne, just want to find out, how soon should consumers expect the situation to normalize?
Well, as soon as possible. As I mentioned, the issue of Dodowa was dealt with yesterday. Hashimota has been dealt with today. Tantra Hill, those areas, the Tesano, we dealt with it yesterday. Adenta will be dealt with on Friday by upgrading it. So when you take areas like Shire Hills, those places that in the last 3 weeks had challenges with power, have power now. And so those issues have been dealt with. And so I can tell you on authority that if you go back to the residents that have been complained in the last 48 hours, in the next 48 hours, their feedback will be completely different. And as a government, you have the commitment of Honorable Dr. John Jinapo that the people of Ghana will continue to experience stable power supply. I mean, we took this sector when they had 700 megawatt deficits in generation as of December 2024. But today, that story has changed. And so we'll continue to address these outages to ensure that at all material time, the objective of His Excellency the President will be achieved.
As you work on bringing the situation under control, should we expect a timetable from you so that at least consumers can plan?
No, there's no need for a timetable. What it is that, if you have a fault, if you're shedding loads, then you can put together a timetable because you are certain that you have this deficit in power generation. And so you have to, for want of a better word, you have to distribute power so that all areas can benefit from that. If you have a challenge with, let's say, underground cable, that has nothing to do with load shedding. That is a fault that you fix immediately. And so you cannot say that you need a timetable because it is not as if you don't have power. The power is available, but getting the power to the consumer through the distribution line is where the challenge is. If you are talking about load shedding, that means you are dealing with generation. We don't have any issue with generation of power as we speak. We have a generation part, where it's made up of VRA, the IPPs. You have the transmission part, which is handled by Gridco, and you have the distribution part, which is what ECG and NETCO handles. The distribution challenge cannot lead to load shedding.
Now, Roxanne, coincidentally, all these challenges you have enumerated seem to be occurring simultaneously. Why do you think that is the case?
All this, in Accra alone, there are almost 200 feeders. And so if you have over 200 feeders and you have 3 or 4 experiencing a fault or damage at a time, to do the percentages, we are looking at less than 5%. And when it comes to the distribution or generation of electricity, some of these outages are expected all over the world. Systems fail at a point. And so if you have system failure, you have a challenge with the system, that is expected. The most important point is that what measures have you put in place to deal with a problem immediately they happen? And that is what this government has been doing. In the last 3 years, in fact, the last 5 years, before 2024, ECG's maintenance was practically non-existent. In the last 1 year, ECG has enhanced its maintenance. You've had the government support ECG. Even last year alone, the government supported ECG with over 200 transformers. And so these challenges that we're experiencing are being handled. And I'm certain that in the next couple of days, this will be a thing of the past.
Richmond Roxon, spokesperson and head of communications at the Energy Ministry. Thank you so much for speaking to us on Newsnight.
In other stories tonight, the Attorney General's office has discontinued an illegal mining case linked to the fatal shooting of a 13-year-old Pius in Ketia at the Adelekezo mining site in the western region. The boy was allegedly shot by private security personnel of Ijas Mining Company during a confrontation with community members over polluted water sources and destroyed farmlands. 8 Chinese and their Ghanaian counterparts have since been discharged after the AG's office told the Takoradi Circuit Court 2 the police did not provide enough evidence to prosecute an illegal mining charge. The following report has more.
In September 2025, 8 Chinese nationals working for Jas Mining Company Limited were arrested after they were found engaging in environmental infractions at Adelekezo, a farming community in the Nzema East municipality of the Western region. They were later released after unsubstantiated claims they had a license to mine. The continuous pollution of water bodies and degradation of farmlands continued in Adelekezo, but before police got there, 13-year-old Pius in Ketia had been gunned down by private security personnel of the company. Close to 3 months after the case was called in court, the Attorney General's office has filed to discontinue the case, citing lack of evidence. The police did not investigate the murder of the boy, neither did they file any charges of his murder in court. The community members are not happy.
We need justice for the boy in Ketia.
God should let the truth prevail. We should demonstrate that Ghana at least recognizes the rule of law. The boy's painful murder was not captured in the court proceedings. His mother is devastated and she keeps crying all the time.
Mother of the boy tells Love News the owner of the mining site has since approached with a compensation of 50,000 cedis, which she rejected. The miner is also planning to go back to site to continue his mining operations. Reporting for Joy News, Erastus Asaredonko, Adelekezo, Western Region.
Let's do business, and George Riafi is here with the latest. George, take us away.
Hi, Kenneth, and coming up in business, government highlights significant turnaround of the economy a year after taking over, with majority of key indicators dropping to record levels. And tax expert Francis Timoboy describes as worrying declining revenue numbers for last year, especially from the oil and gas sector. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Kingdom Books and Stationery, your number one-stop shop for all your office essentials, Sinter's Tanks, and Pepsodent Herbal and Charcoal. Welcome back to Business on Newsnight. Now, government is insisting that it has turned around the economy a year after taking over. There is more in the flowing Business Desk report.
The Finance Ministry, in a statement issued today, argued that policies introduced by this administration has helped to improve majority of key economic indicators. The Finance Ministry, for instance, cited inflation, which had dropped from more than 20% in December 2024 to 3.8% for the month of January 2026 as one of the major turnaround for this economy. The cedi's record appreciation for last year, as well as Treasury bills rates now in the single-digit range. The ministry in a statement maintained that the turnaround can also be attributed to improved fiscal position, strengthened by revenue mobilization and tighter expenditure controls. It further added that the low Treasury bills rate has helped reduce the cost of credit for the country. Government in the statement also argued that all sectors of the economy have shown some measurable improvements. It went ahead to indicate that government remains committed to consolidating the recent gains achieved with focus on creating jobs, sustained growth and long-term economic transformation.
And that is a Business Desk report. Now, tax expert Francis Timoboy has described as worrying the declining revenue numbers for last year. New data from the Bank of Ghana showed that the government missed out on its revenue target for the first 11 months of last year by more than 6%. Mr. Boy was worried about the collections coming from the oil and gas sector.
6.4% below target, not too catastrophic in macro terms. In many fiscal programs, a deviation between 5 to 8% can be absorbed, especially if expenditure discipline is maintained. So whilst government is missing its target on revenue, we expect that the expenditure side can be tightly managed, and then they can sail through. Real concern is the oil and gas collapse. 64% below target is quite worrying, and most of the expenses that come from the free SHS we funded from oil and gas. So this is not a marginal variance. It's a big volatility, and I think that it shows how our economy is largely dependent on commodities.
Francis Timoboy is a tax expert. Now, President John Mahama has appointed the officer in charge of port operations at the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority as the acting commissioner of the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority, that is Aaron Kano. Now, this was contained in a statement issued by the Ghana Revenue Authority a while ago. Mr. Kano takes over from Brigadier General Glover Ashon Annan, who until recently was the commissioner of the Ghana Revenue Authority in terms of the Customs Division. And this is part of several initiatives that government is rolling out to reform or try and deal with challenges facing the sector when it comes to revenue mobilization. Now, the Food and Beverage Association of Ghana has described as prudent government decision to ban the importation of coconut oil through their flour border. The association, however, maintains that government must extend this ban to other land borders in the country. The Food and Beverage Association action said that action by the Ministry of Finance should go a long way to save a lot of businesses that are operating in the country. John Awuni, the chairman of the association.
This directive must be extended to Olibo border, to Sankansi, and all other land borders. And indeed, we also strongly recommend that the scope of the directive be beyond transit goods to a complete ban on the entry of the affected products through the land borders into Ghana, whether transit or for direct consumption. A partial restriction that targets only transit consignments may inadvertently create loopholes that can be exploited, leading to continuous smuggling, under declaration, and unfair practices. This bold and strong initiative will lead to protect local industries and jobs, promote fair trade and competitive neutrality, curb smuggling and illicit trade, enhance revenue mobilization for national development and the government of Ghana, and we stand with them continuously for further collaborations for national development.
John Awuni is the chairman of the Food and Beverage Association. Now, Carl Bank ended last year posting some strong growth in its operations. There's a strong growth according to its 2025 financials, was fueled by strong capital rebound, material asset quality recovery, and sustainable growth. The development resulted in profit after tax going up by more than 16% to reach 481 million Ghana cedis. The bank also made some strong strides when it comes to its non-performing loans, as reduced significantly to 17%. And by way of some news that just came in a while ago, that President John Mahama has appointed the officer in charge of port operations, that is Aaron Kano, as the acting commissioner of the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority with immediate effect. And that's all for business on Newsnight. Kenneth, back Back to you.
Well, thank you very much, George. Let's go to Parliament, Pearl.
And the minority is tonight accusing the acting Deputy Chief Executive of Cocoboard in charge of Finance and Administration, Bulletin, of conflict of interest in the discharge of his duties at the company. According to the minority, Cocoboard is deliberately depriving PBC of funds, while Bulletin is allegedly diverting the money to keep Atlas Commodities afloat. Addressing the media in Parliament, Member of Parliament for OTA for Vincent Eko Asefua says there are clear conflict of interest concerns involving Bulletin, which he says is affecting the operations of PBC.
Public records show that Mr. Bulletin previously served as the Chief Executive Officer of Atlas Commodities Limited in 2018. And I have in my hands here a document from the Registrar General's Department that shows who has been the owner and the directors of the Atlas Commodities Limited. They are all here with me. There are documents that I also shared on my Facebook wall. Today, that same person occupies one of the most powerful financial and administrative offices within Cocoboard, the institution mandated under law to regulate cocoa buying companies. Under the Ghana Cocoboard Act, Cocoboard is a regulator. It is not a competitor. You cannot be a referee and be a player at the same time. You cannot be a regulator and be a competitor at the same time. Article 284 of the 1992 Constitution clearly prohibits a public officer from placing himself in a position where his personal interest conflicts or is likely to conflict with his official duties.
That's the MP for Old Tafo, Vincent Eko Asefua, who is also claiming that Atlas Commodities Limited is currently allegedly operating in some warehouses belonging to PBC.
Under Cocoboard regulations, each licensed buying company must operate within warehouses registered in its own name. Warehouses registered under PBC must not be used by another company for storage, grading, sealing, or processing of cocoa. We also have in our hands receipts that actually shows that some of the sealings were done at the PBC warehouses belonging to Atlas Commodities Limited. These cocoa were found at the warehouses belonging to PBC, but the sealings are sealings for Atlas Commodities Limited. And these are some of the sealings that we found at the PBC warehouses. In fact, these are documents that have also been lodged with the Kajabi police station, a report or a complaint that was made by the officers of PBC.
So my colleague Fatal Bayaga was at the press conference where the Otafu NP made these allegations. Fatal, what more did Vincent say?
Pearl, Vincent Eko Asefua noted that some workers of the produce buying company, thus PBC, have not been paid for about a year, attributing the situation to alleged schemes by Bulletin, which he claims have deprived the company of much needed funds. Take a listen.
There are also troubling reports that some PBC workers reportedly have not been paid for extended periods, at least for a period of 1 year. The reason why PBC workers are not paid is that when government gets the money, it does not give the money to PBC to go and buy cocoa, so that government will be able to get some margins off it. If you get margins, that is when you'll be able to get money to be able to pay your workers. Now PBC is starved, is deprived with resources that will allow them to be able to operate, and those monies are given to LBCs. LBCs, a chunk of it belong to Bulletin, who is a deputy chief executive of Cocoboard.
Well, Fatal, so beyond the allegations, he's also been making some demands.
Absolutely, Pearl. So he stated that public officers should not benefit from illegal systems that they've created at the expense of the state. So the Old Tafo lawmaker is therefore calling for a full criminal investigation by the Office of the Special Prosecutor and a constitutional conflict of interest determination by the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, among other demands. Take a listen to him.
Cocoa farmers are sacrificing daily to sustain the economy. Regulatory leadership must not create even the appearance of benefiting from the same system they supervise. You cannot benefit from the same system that you yourself is supervising. You cannot create a system whereby you will deprive the state from operating to be able to earn margins, to be able to give to the state, so that the state can also pay its workers, and direct or indirectly siphon those monies into the pockets of an individual. Which individual is Mr. Atoboate? As a minority, we demand the following. We demand a full criminal investigation by the Office of the Special Prosecutor. We demand a constitutional conflict of interest determination by SHRAJ. We also demand a forensic audit of warehouse registrations and cocoa movement records. The minority is also demanding for a full disclosure from COCOBOD, national security, and relevant authorities.
Homes swallowed by the sea, fishing stopped by fear, and families pushed closer to displacement. In Ketu South Municipality, coastal communities are slowly sinking as tidal waves advance inland. But the new sea defense project offers fragile hope. Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin reports from Salakope in today's Climate Evidence.
By the time the waves retreat, there is little left to save in Salakope and nearby coastal communities in Ketu South. Homes have been destroyed, canoes lie broken, families are scattered. For many young people here, now they travel to neighboring towns just to earn a little money if they can. Not far away, Nyekwe Gali sits on the ground with a child on her lap. Even here, she says, it's not safe.
Sometimes we are cooking and the sea splashes into the fire and puts it out. A mouse even bit my hand. Sometimes all I can do is to cry.
Community leader Gideon Tete points to what used to be home.
The community from where I stand is far into the sea now. That's about 500 meters away from this place. That is where the community used to be.
Across Ghana's southeastern coast, from Keta to Adina, more than 10,000 structures have been destroyed. Experts say the sea moves inland by about 2 meters every year. Changing weather patterns is driving stronger waves and rising sea levels. But now residents say hope has returned. In July 2025, Phase 2 of the Blekosu Coastal Protection Project began. It will protect 8 kilometers of coastline, including Salakope.
I must say that I am impressed about what is going on here, because I've been receiving payment certificates in the office. I've been asking myself, is the work really going on like the way these payment certificates keep coming? And I decided that today I'll pay a visit to ensure that whatever payment certificate that comes to my office will be signed. The actual work has been done. And truly, I've come to see that the work is really going on. Looking at the staff here, I think they are on track. They are even ahead of time. So I'm quite impressed with what is going on here. But still, we will encourage them. Not that I'm here encouraging them and then now they will know minister came here, so everything is fine. No.
A report by Mohammed Nuruddin.
This story is brought to you by Joy News in partnership with CDK in Ghana, University of Ghana Center for Climate Change and Sustainability Studies, with funding from Claire R4I Opportunities Fund.
Well, in other news, a civil society platform for social protection, CSPSP, is warning of a looming crisis as nearly 100,000 beneficiaries under the labor-intensive Public Works and Productive Inclusion Program are still waiting payment. The group says more than 85 million cedis in outstanding wages and grants are pushing vulnerable households deeper into hardship. There is more in this report.
We address the nation today with deep concern and urgency regarding the continued and unacceptable delay in payments to approximately 100,000 beneficiaries under the Labor-Intensive Public Works, LIPW for short, and Productive Inclusion, which is also PI for short. The total outstanding owed to the LIPW beneficiaries alone is approximately 42.5 million dollars, and that of the productive inclusion is 43 million dollars. Ladies and gents, behind the figures are real households. Civil society platform for social protection therefore calls on the government of Ghana through the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Local Government, Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs to immediately release all outstanding payments. Delays have become unsustainable. Vulnerable households cannot absorb prolonged income disruption.
Well, let's bring you some of the comments you've been sending us. This one says, we are begging the tomato sellers. How can just a week create shortage? They should not do politics with this and be quick to start increasing the prices of tomatoes and create disaffection for the NDC government and be forcing them to act. And that's from Francis in Accra. Nana Ekuamwa Boatin in Ablekuma Central says that we are paying so much for electricity supply, but due to the ineptitude on the side of the management, and at the end of the day, consumers suffer. And he goes on to say that the students who unleashed mayhem on their colleague must face the full rigors of the law. Such lawlessness should not be entertained in our schools. And the final one says, Poalugu Dam, when constructed, will be the solution to the tomato trade problems. I hope the current government prioritizes the dam construction for the good of all Ghanaians. And that's from Dipku Ishmael.
And that brings us to the end of News 9 tonight. Thank you very much for being a part of the show. My name is Kenneth Jesse.
My name is Pale Ofuri.
Have a good evening.